Tyler Kelly, how are you, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing wonderful.
Listen, so you are the president or the lead of the Young Republicans of Idaho, right?
Yes. Chairman for the Young Republicans.
Right.
I was elected about a year ago almost.
Okay. So one of the larger principles of the Republican Party, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the government closest to the people is the best government, right?
That's what we go for, yeah.
So talk to me about how and why you so dearly love HOAs.
I don't love HOAs.
They're the closest government
They
to
sure
the
are.
people. You have like 20 house HOAs, baby. Come on.
But they're not I mean, they are a government, I suppose, but they're a quasi-government. There's no public election.
Isn't there within the
I don't
HOA?
have an HOA. I don't have an HOA. I have no idea. When I bought my house, I specifically did not want an HOA. I'm fine with CC&Rs.
Sure.
Because I think that's like more
Don't start a Chinese
standard
food restaurant right next to me.
Sure, but like
Unless you have good Mongolian.
HOAs to me violate like certain levels of property rights, because you buy a house, you loan it, maybe you don't own it, but the bank owns it, but you pay all that formality of it, but like you have a property, and then some Karen, can I say that? Some Karen comes in and they're like, you know what, we're only doing off colors of beige. That's all we're allowed to do. Is off colors of beige, and if you want an off color of white, well then that's just not going to work. And so like I get it. It's all for beautification and upkeep and value. I understand that. But at some point it goes way too far. And it's like, where's the line?
The garage door. You can't have your garage door open. It's like,
right.
What do you mean? I can't have they're like, that's in the, the HOA bylaw or whatever the law is. And it's like, I can't open my, like for what period of time? Like, it's like, do I have to be, I can't, like, they're so wild. And again, the larger principle is, hey, look, let's not have big government. Let's have government that's close to the people, right? So we're talking your city council, your board of education. Like these are real classic elected people. But the government tending smallest that I can see really is represented in HOAs, and people get a hold of these things and they can just make your life hell.
Yeah,
it's
they do.
What are your qualifications? And can I opt out of and again, Senator Nichols actually had a very interesting point. She was like, you can't negotiate whether to be in an HOA or not. You can negotiate price for a house. You can negotiate like replace the water heater, but you're not capable of negotiating whether or not to be part of this, like quasi-government agency. And once you're there, man, they have control over the biggest asset you have.
Correct. You're in it, and you self-select into it. And so some people make the argument that you can go somewhere where, you don't have an HOA, and it's like, well, a raise of hands of who wants to go live in Horseshoe Bend, right?
Right.
I mean,
nothing
or who
against
wants to go
Horseshoe
live.
Bend, but like,
yeah, I love Horseshoe Bend, but like if you are in, the Treasure Valley proper, or let's just say that you want to live and work and play generally in the same area, the only place you can go, and the reason I said Horseshoe Bend because we're in Eagle here, and so like, do you want to drive an hour and a half to come down? I love Horseshoe Bend, but like, do you want to drive an hour and a half to go everywhere you need to go? It's like you can go outside of the general metro area, but if you're kind of limited, right?
You may not know this, if I may ask, but. And again, this show is not meant to be about HOAs. We were just talking about right before we started.
Just funny. It was just funny.
But is there a reason why, like, is it possible for a developer? I could understand the argument for having an HOA. Say you have a 1,000 house development that you're slotted to do, and you're like, okay, we're not going to have an HOA, even from the beginning iteration. You get the first 200 houses built, and you're like coming in for year, like 6, and you're like, okay, we're going to finish up the last, 800 houses. The 200 people living there then like stage a coup. There's like, they go to the county commissioners and they essentially terminate your capacity to continue your development. And you've already built out a wastewater system for 1,000 homes. You've built out, street infrastructure for 1,000 and things of this nature. You're like, wait a minute, we have this long investment, and our actual profit was like the last 150 homes. And then it's all profit. But the first 850, it's just like sucking wind. It's just a lot of debt, all of these things. So we have HOAs, at least in part, to protect the developer's capacity to continue developing to completion. And that, again, makes sense to me. But why don't we have systems where it's like, okay, the second the last home is done, the HOA is over and you guys are all on your own?
I think there's ongoing management of some of those things, and there's nuance, right? And so not to take us away from HOAs.
Sure.
Although maybe we can. Yeah. But I think like to illustrate maybe a larger point, and something that I deal with young Republicans a lot, is like understanding kind of the, like, what are the tenets of the discussion that we're going at here? You know, sometimes people can get really wrapped up around things like HOAs or alternate energies or whatever it may be. But the point is that people aren't having conversations. They're not seeking to understand. And they're just like blatantly and quickly saying like, I hate HOAs. They're super annoying. I hate windmills, like, you know, whatever it may be. But it's like, if you actually like kind of break open the book a little bit and get in there, that's like, oh, there's a really good reason for that. Because to your point, somebody's investing a lot of time, money, and energy to build this up. And then there's all these resources like utilities and water that need to be managed. And so at the fundamental level, you're like, yeah, HOAs can be really helpful. And then they start trying to pick the color you're siding. And you're like, all right, this is kind of getting dumb. Right.
Yeah. And I do agree with you. I think it is having common space, like tragedy of the commons is a real thing. So if you have a centralized park or a centralized clubhouse in a community and there is no HOA management of that, then you're like, yeah, it's going to be a dump. Everybody knows it's going to be a complete dump. Nobody's going to put the effort in to care for it. And if you get a small group of people that really do bring that energy, the third or fourth time that a bunch of teenagers come and trash it, they're going to be like, forget it, right? It's just going to burn to the ground. It's going to be like Oakland, but like in your community, just like a tiny little. So I understand that. But again, beyond that, there is the like, hey, you can't color your house this way, or you can't have the garage door open. There are those things where it's like, wow, man, what a crazy nanny state.
I want Kermit the Frog green, and nobody's going to let me do it.
Oh, my God.
No.
What do you have? I'm not going to say that joke. Just kidding. But again, coming back to the Young Republicans is interesting to me, specifically because I feel like there are a lot of problems that our country is really facing right now. Some of the greatest turmoil is from within. Right. Some of we don't have a unified outside enemy. You know, like if aliens landed and started to take everybody over, I'm sure Democrats and Republicans would band together real fast because they don't like the aliens.
Maybe.
Coming to, yeah, maybe.
I'm not convinced of that.
Okay, that's fair.
There's like, I'm almost thinking there's nothing that we can come together on anymore, which is, I think that's the saddest part.
Okay, so look, you and I, we inherited this world. Right. And like I'm in my early 40s, you're in your mid 30s. We're not the 80-year-old that made this. Like I was born in the 80s. So were you, I presume, probably late 80s, spanned a little. But like things started going sideways in the 90s easily. Right. And that's a huge reality that everyone has to confront, which is like, look, man, we didn't make it this way. But if we don't find a way through it, then it's going to be our responsibility. Because the only thing I hate more than somebody who caused the problem is somebody who just complains about it but lets it happen. So like it's up to us to start unpacking this mess. When do you think that we collectively as a nation really started to veer in your lifetime when you're like, okay, this was like a split, like this time frame right here, this is where we really started to fissure and lose capacity to find our way back together?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, you know, and one that I actually have dealt with a lot with young Republicans and working with younger voters. You know, when social media first got invented and your different avenues of communication first came out, you know, folks were excited because it was going to bring us together. Now I can talk to people in China and Russia and England. And there was a honeymoon period, right? Where it was like, oh my gosh, like the world is so connected. I know what's going on. I don't know how long that honeymoon lasted. You know, maybe it was a week, like normal honeymoons.
Weekend.
It was a weekend. It was a weekend, sure. And then the first viral clip kind of, you know, went out there. And anyway, a couple years later, you know, it turned out to be a detriment, not a benefit. Right. Where now, you know, you had these different spaces where people were saying things and having real life consequences. And we've only see that play just carry out more and more and more over the years, right? Where you almost have two different lives. You know, we joke, and some of our younger members even joke, we're like, is Twitter a real space? I don't know, but it has real life consequences, you know?
Right. We need to define what real means at this point. But I knew this. I graduated in 2004, and my wife was a year younger than me. We knew before we graduated college. Now, mind you, Facebook really went out to the masses in like 2004, because originally it was just a couple universities, and then I think it was like Harvard and Yale, and then they added on. I remember Berkeley got added on, and I jumped on it, and MySpace was hammering really hard. But before we were even fully out of university, people were already getting in trouble for, like my wife, for instance, she was on water polo team. And she was in a picture that someone else posted of her at like an event, like a party, right? She had a red Solo cup, fully dressed, not hammered, not like, didn't even, just like there with like people. And she was, captain of the team. Like, here she is. She has she's obviously well above the drinking age, not engaged in anything bad at all. Gets called in and reprimanded for this photo that somebody else posted of her, because here she is at a social engagement with a red Solo cup in her hand. And like, we knew really fast, it was like, oh, this is going to go sideways. Like, you didn't even do anything wrong. And 2005, people are getting in trouble for this stuff.
Yeah. You were just a bystander, right? I'm just glad we didn't have that we did have it when I was in college and whatever. It wasn't nearly what it is now.
Yeah. Right.
But there were a couple times that I was fully dressed in a fitted sheet, and I'm glad that didn't get out there.
Dressed in a fitted sheet.
Right. And so, but it changes a little bit. And like, we've even had, I'm sure you saw that we even had our own little scandal with the Young Republicans about online actions versus non-online actions. And
can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Fitted sheet. I actually went to a party once dressed as a raisin. And if you're wondering what that is, it means I was wearing a Glad bag.
A Glad bag?
Like a black Glad bag.
You're like,
man after my own heart.
It's 7 p.m. I need something for this soiree that we're having this evening, where everyone's going to have like the classy of drinks and, around a real nice dining table. And of course.
Oh my gosh. Those were some brutal days, man. Like,
they were.
That was some stuff. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
You're good. But like, we just had this conversation about, like, you're talking about this online piece, and it's very relevant even today. You think that like your digital literacy and your like online awareness is like up, and it's really not. I'm sure there's some people that are aware of it, but there's a lot of people who have not learned that lesson yet.
Okay. I actually really want to talk to you about this. I think there are plenty of people who engage in large online spaces that are like, okay, can't say anything bad here. Right. Like, you can't go to Facebook and say something you can, but you're going to, you're going to pay the price for it. And that leads people to have alternate online spaces like group chats. And I wasn't part of like a lot of group chats until COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we had this group chat for my entire jiu-jitsu academy that we were all like best friends. We saw each other every day. All of a sudden we couldn't see each other. And I remember my birthday was March of 2020. So like right 2 weeks after lockdown, it's my birthday, and we all like jump on to Zoom, as lame as that is, but everybody's got drinks and like there's music going, and we're like, oh, this is so cool. And then we get on a group chat, right? So it's like everybody's kind of hanging out. So it's this quasi social media in that you have a select group of friends that are talking not directly to one person, but to a large body of people. And that, even away from Facebook, desensitizes you to normal like social behavior, and you start engaging like people say things or do things that are crazy, that it's like you would never say that. And these were closest friends. Like, you would never say that if we were hanging out together, but it allows people to act in an inhuman manner that is just, it's terrible all around. So like, yeah, you can poo-poo on people on Facebook. And I think people on Facebook generally are like, wait, this is Facebook, I can't say anything. But then they go into group chats and say the most atrocious things possible.
They engage in a digital space, like to your point, the way they would never engage with like their neighbors or friends. It's that profile. It's that faux anonymity or faux confidentiality, right? It's like, well, I don't see it. I just see your profile, your screen, or whatever it may be. And it emboldens people. And I mean, I have a hard time thinking that folks have not heard the lesson of like, hey, like what you say out there matters, or, whether it be in a digital space or real world space. I'll use the same advice, my parents kind of gave me growing up, was like, if you're not going to be embarrassed, that it's like, if what you say ends up on the front page of the newspaper or in front of your pastor at church, like, are you still going to be embarrassed to hear it or ashamed to see it or whatever it may be? So like, if that standard holds true, then you're probably acting the right way. If you say something or do something, it shows up on the front page of the newspaper tomorrow, and you're like, oh my gosh, then you know what? Maybe you're out of line, right?
Yeah. And I guess okay, agree with everything you're saying, but let's come back to, okay, if you and I, and regardless of party, like, I understand you're part of the Young Republicans, right? And I never take a side, right? But like, if you and I sitting here as two dudes who have families and are deeply invested in this community, we're like, okay, how do we bring this community together in a manner that's not like we can all get along? They just need to give up everything they like, right? Whoever they is, right? Like, I love compromise as long as you're the one compromising, right? Like, how do we navigate forward? Because in 30 years, when you and I are like the old crusty dudes in the community, are we going to have a couple dudes in their like 30s or early 40s talking trash about us because they're like, look at what Matt and like, you know, Tyler did. Like, oh my God, like they screwed this up. Okay, but how do we tend towards the least amount of damage?
You know, I wish I had that answer. I struggle with that one a lot. You know, I guess I'll share with you one thing I share with our group, is that, you know, because we see this kind of fighting all the time, of like, how do we leave it better, essentially, for the next generation? How do we drive more, you know, humanity back to these issues? And you talk about compromise. So when part of my speech when I got elected, I told folks that we need to learn to be better negotiators and better compromisers. And what that means is that when you enter into a negotiation, it's my experience at least that if both sides are willing to compromise and give up a little bit and they feel a little bit uncomfortable, if each side feels a little bit uncomfortable, then you're probably doing something good. If one person or one side gets everything they want, then chances are the other side doesn't. Right. And so I think people look at this as like a zero-sum game. And they go, okay, well, you're both going to be a little uncomfortable. And that's actually a good negotiation. Right. In most cases, that's my experience with it.
Yeah, I heard that when I was very young, too.
Yeah. And I think like more people need to understand that, where you go into these issues, whether it be, you know, political campaigns, whether it be, you know, issues that you're debating, whether it be
real estate transactions, just
whatever, maybe even like interpersonal things. You know, somebody wants to do a meeting on Wednesday, the other person wants to do it on Thursday. It's like, well, okay, let's just find a way to do it. Like I hear
Saturday it is.
Yeah, Saturday it is. Or you know what? We're going to do it on this meeting this week and this meeting next week. But let's engage as though, you know, we care about the other person, even though we may not always know them. Right. Like engage as though we're your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. Engage kindly, engage honestly. And if you get frustrated, that's fine. Everybody gets mad, but like, let's remember that at the end of the day, we're humans. And then you can jump on your digital space and go MF other people later, right? And retweet all their subtweets and blah, 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 you know, whatever. But, you know, there's no humanity in this anymore. And that's the thing that's scariest to me, is that these digital spaces have stripped the humanity out of our conversations.
How do you view the risk involved where, say, you're a conservative and calling for dignity, humanity, and compromise is viewed as a 100% liability, and people portray you as they're like, that person's just, again, in your case, since you're Republican, it's like that person's a Dem, right? Or I had a person who was running for a localized city office and interviewing her, and I asked about law enforcement and gave like a wishy-washy answer. It's like, okay, whatever, like that's your answer. Like you had a chance to say something. And later I found out this person hit me up and was like, yeah, look, sorry I gave you a wishy-washy answer. I actually do support the police, but you know, I'm liberal, or I have a bunch of liberal friends that believe all cops are bastards. She actually said that. She was like ACAB. And I was like, I had to look it up. I was like, what the hell is that? Anyway, the point is, she was like, if I say anything in support of law enforcement, then I will be declared controlled opposition and I will be shunned. It's like, oh my God, man. Like, what in holy hell are you talking about? Right. So if you're a Republican and you emphasize compromise, dignity, let's work through this. If you're a Democrat and you emphasize compromise, dignity, maybe we should supply our law enforcement with funding, you get obliterated. How do you weigh the risk involved with articulating this completely reasonable position and recognize like, yeah, this could be a real problem for us?
I think it is a problem. You know, I don't know how I weigh it. You know, I'll be honest, man. It's a troubling thing. You know, when we had this, I kind of alluded to this kind of like texting scandal thing that came out, and our organization
that was, by the way, that wasn't you guys. That was like somebody in Virginia or something.
No,
right?
we were not. Idaho was not involved in that at all. But we got calls about it, and people thought it was us, and they don't understand the nuance of how this stuff works sometimes. So it was like, okay, it was important to me that we make a statement and clear the air on it. And there were folks, albeit a minority, but there were folks that were calling for my resignation. They're like, you need to go. How dare you, you know, censure speech or whatever. I was like, I'm not censoring speech. Nobody in Idaho did this. It's about governing yourselves. It's about setting the standard, right? And I think that there's a lot of candidates, there's a lot of leaders who want to be leaders for, and I'm maybe generalizing a bit, but, populist reasons, or they see stuff on social media, and, leadership and governing and doing these things is hard. Right. And you go on, I see it all the time with, candidates, right? They go on the campaign trail and they say and do one thing, and then they get elected and they realize it's pretty hard to govern. And I'm not pointing fingers at Republicans or Democrats. I'm just kind of universally saying candidates, right? It's one thing to campaign. It's another thing to govern. And
it's another thing to govern well.
And,
right. Anybody can just step into and screw everything up and then walk out.
They're
like, one love, I'm out.
Yeah. They're like, all right, thanks for the ride, guys.
Yeah, right.
It was a great 4 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. But these are hard things. And, sometimes it requires you to kind of stand up, maybe stand up to your base, but like really engage in the principles that you believe in. And they call it having a backbone, right? Well, what does that even mean? Because some people say, oh, you need to have a backbone and go do this. It's like, well, what if that backbone violates the Constitution? What if that backbone violates a law? Well, the people want it, but the people sometimes don't read these governing documents. So we've got some problems here. And I think like informing and educating is certainly one piece of it, but, good leadership matters, right? When they say that.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you start cutting back, to your point.
Yeah. Falling back onto, look, what's the Constitution? And if you want to veer from the Constitution, that's fine. You can want anything, but like, I'm not about that life, or whatever it might be, right? Falling back on shared, this was a very interesting kind of like social experiment with the Nampa Pride Parade. It was very interesting to see the entire thing play out, where people were like, you shouldn't let the Pride Parade in here. It's like, okay, based on what? Right? Because there was the warning. It's like, don't mess around, like no, phallic popsicles or whatever you want. Don't have any of this nonsense. And because we're going to not be happy. We'll press charges.
If you have it, the HOA is going to write you up. So you better be careful.
Karen's going to be there. Oh my God. And so you had all these warnings. And then of course, it was 24, you had the two dudes that showed up with plastic surgery and like peed in everybody's Cheerios. It's like, oh God, boy. And then we have the legislation that goes out, in response to that in this legislative session. But it happened again this year at the Pride Parade in Nampa, and nothing happened. Those individuals didn't show up, and nobody broke the law or broke the rules. Like, you didn't hear a peep about it at all, but you still had this question within the community of like, should this be allowed? And it's like, well, what do we agree on? Do we agree that people have rights to assemble and things of that nature, even if you don't like their assembly? Because if you believe in that, then you can't stop them, right? And if you don't believe in it, that's fine. Just look in the camera and say that out loud. Like, I don't believe in these, rights that we've all been bestowed with. That's really, I think, to your point, it's like, you got to come back to something that everybody agrees in. And, to the degree that that's possible, because there will be some people who are like, I don't care. Yeah. I don't care, Tyler. We're going to do whatever. That's not the
cool thing anymore, Matt. Don't you know that? It's not cool to listen to those governing documents and those founding documents. It's cool to listen, strictly to the people, right? And I'm not saying don't listen to the people. We absolutely have to. But, when the people are calling for things that are unconstitutional, what's our role? What's our role in that? I don't know. We've seen it happen, though. And so I think part of it is educating and saying, okay, well, what you're asking for, we can't really do. There's a ton of things that go on that I don't agree with. Does that mean that I want to shut them down? No, because I think they have a right to do that. In fact, in certain cases, it's actually a protected right or protected speech or whatever it may be. And so, I think it's important to let those things happen. I think it's more dangerous to turn around and say that, you know what, I don't agree with what you're doing, even though you have a right to do it. So I'm going to find a way to shut that down anyway, because I don't agree with it. And that's kind of the problem that we have, is that, we talk about where are we going to be in 30 years. I can tell you that I hope that when I'm, in 30 more years, when I'm 70 something years old, I hope that I'm not just like ignorantly shouting down at the youths who are doing different things that I don't understand.
The youths?
The youths. You know what I mean? Like,
this is like right out of my cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
The what?
The what?
The
yeah.
youths.
The youths. Like, there's a ton of differences. Yeah. Anyway, these are tough issues.
Oh, another splash.
Yeah, why not?
Dude, the coffee's so good today.
It is good. It was good. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I what I found interesting, there are so many opportunities to disagree. There really are, right? Like Pride Parade's on one end, right? And then you have the heterosexual Pride Festival on the other end in Boise, right? What I think is so funny is that they didn't do the heterosexual Pride Fest in Nampa. And they didn't do the Pride Parade in Boise. It's like, no, we're going to the like flip flop here.
I don't understand some of this stuff. I'll be honest.
Like, it's fine. Like it is what it is, right? And you have so many opportunities to get worked up, but both of those things just suck the oxygen out of the room when we have real problems that people should be aware of. Here's one for you. I have the director of Idaho's Department of Environmental Quality coming on soon to talk about the regulations that were finalized in 2015. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I don't think I am.
Okay. No. Here's something very important for you to recognize. Middleton, yeah? Mm-hmm. Middleton is getting a new wastewater treatment plant. Do you know why? Probably
because they're growing and they're up to here in shit.
Sure. Okay. That is a very, very clear and very popular articulation. Has nothing to do with that. Okay. They're at a 5,000 house capacity right now. They have an 8,000 house capacity total, right? So they're like, listen, you can grow another 3,000 households. It's irrelevant to us. We have plenty of capacity with our wastewater treatment plant. By the way, that criticism, the city council has allowed us to grow too hard, therefore we have to replace our wastewater treatment. That actually was very valuable for people running against the city council that just took, or rather, that's something that people said, criticized city council. That's not what actually happened. 2015, they changed the phosphate discharge requirements for municipalities. So they go from 5 parts per million of phosphate that comes out of, naturally comes out of wastewater down to 0.1 per part per thousand, part per million. That's a new standard. So because of that, they have to do an enhanced wastewater treatment mechanism that's going to cost like $100 million in 2 phases. Okay. I tell you all of this to say that across the Treasure Valley, you're looking at something like $3 billion of municipal money being spent for this phosphate reduction. Now, I am not telling you it's good or bad. I am having the director come on, who was not the director at the time when this decision was made, to explain this is why this is important. And then people can decide if they agree with the director or not. It's none of my affair. But the point is, here we're arguing about the heterosexual Pride Festival or the Nampa Pride Festival, and the Treasure Valley is spending billions of dollars to upgrade their wastewater management. When you talk about it's hard to govern, how could you draw people's attention to the glaring $3 billion price tag just in this localized area when all they want to do is yell about how this person is bad or that person's bad? It's like, okay, but we have to address this $3 billion item, but all anybody wants to do is have you take a position on the flag. Right. It's like, oh gosh, man, there are real problems with governing successfully, and there are real issues that are coming down the pipe at a state and local level that cost us dearly and cause real problems within our budgets and within our communities. And we're focused. Squirrel. Like,
we're totally on something else. And like, those aren't the sexy issues, right? Talking about like poop in your communities and where it goes. Those are not the sexy issues. But they are critical. People, they just turn on their faucet, water comes out, they use facilities and it goes away. Right. I mean, how do you think this works? Right. It doesn't just magically disappear. There's a process, there's utilities, there's infrastructure there. And those are the things that people don't want to get in and talk about, right? Because it's maybe not the most, sexy topic, but
right. I mean, people are like, how could you care about wastewater treatment when we have these, they're coming after our kids or whatever.
Are they though? Are they? I mean, there are states, I've said this for years and, I don't care. People are already calling me rhino this and whatever that, at some point, I think you just don't really care, but like, are they? Like we live in Idaho. We live in Idaho, like in California and Portland and Seattle. I think they are actually, but we're in Idaho. And I've seen for years that there's like all this smoke. Where's the fire? Where's the fire? Where is it? Somebody show me. In fact, I know that there are people looking at other states and the books and things that they've used in other states, but they had trouble finding some stuff here.
Right.
Because I'm not sure if it exists here. Maybe in some areas, maybe in some districts, but, to go back about important issues, not to get too deep in education, it's not really my forte.
Oh, but, go, man, go.
It's like we're so busy talking about, this, CRT in schools or, these issues with teachers and it's whatnot. It's like, well, 87% of the Idaho legislature is Republican, right? I mean, up and down. You're, Your constitutional officers are all Republican. I mean, this is a conservative state, and your levers of your institutions, right? Your institutions are a reflection of your community in most cases, and so when you have a pretty conservative state, you're going to have pretty conservative institutions as well. And so I don't know if you've been outside the Treasure Valley. It's a bit of a difference here. But you go into these different areas and it's like these schools and these wastewater treatment facilities and these city councils, they are a makeup of that community, and they are very conservative. They're very rural, and they believe in things like, homeschooling and water rights and agriculture and public schools and all the other different options. Like, these people are like saying there's fires out there. I don't see them.
Yeah, well,
Sometimes.
and at the very least, you
Sometimes.
don't see them in the same way that you see them in other states. That's 100%, and I will attest to that. You know what else I think is interesting? I think people that, and we'll see it again with this primary, people that go after those like super crazy inflammatory, like they're trying to trans all the kids. It's like, okay, who? Can you point to a person?
Right.
Whatever it might be. I think that one of the interesting things is that takes the responsibility of actual tough decisions off the table. Because like I stood against the people that were trying to trans the kids.
Right.
That's what I did. Right. And then people are like, oh, that's great. It's like, well, what about that $1 billion wastewater treatment plant? They're like, I stood against the people. And you're like, oh, okay, you get a pass. So it really takes the burden of making those tough decisions off the table, because we reduce things down to this one issue that's hyper-inflammatory, incredibly, like, again, I don't even, it's illegal in the state of Idaho. So it's like,
Right.
okay, like who now? Like, because if you're saying where there's a criminal, like just call the sheriff or local law enforcement, have that person
Let me know.
arrested.
I'll
Like,
go and help you.
yeah, like here
seriously.
we go.
I
Right?
think that stuff's terrible too. I think most people
Sure.
agree that's terrible, but like, you're not in California, guys. You're in Idaho.
Right.
And you came here for a reason if people moved in here. But even some of the locals may feel that like Idaho's changing to a certain degree too. I think maybe a lot of a degree, but
Well, the world is changing.
correct. It is.
Right. This is not like,
No.
like, look, this is not the problem with social issues at this point is it's not like you can blame it on California, which is totally fine. Like, and I used to live there. I don't care for it at all. Like I lived in the same 5-mile radius my entire life. So, and I moved my entire family out. My wife left without ever even being to Idaho. Okay. So if you conceptualize somebody we had both lived in the same area our entire lives and had a business that we had created. We had homes, we had communities. To get us to leave that in large effect sight unseen, you have to conceptualize how crazy it must be. And by the way, it is that crazy. However, you see worse things in England. You see things all across Europe. You see things in Canada. You see like all over the place. So it's not like, oh, it's these people in this one state who've peed in our Cheerios. It's like, no, man. The world has changed considerably. And Idaho is resisting a lot of that change and has put laws in place, like Governor Little calling out, men and women's spaces. And she's like, we're not doing that here. So again, yeah, Idaho has changed a little bit, but the world has also changed way more. So, I mean, we should at least recognize that it's not one population, it's the world population.
It does, and it changes. And, speaking about like the changing and I'm thinking back on the social media and all the stuff we've been talking about where it's like the world is so much more connected now. Yeah. Really kind of a theme I guess we've been talking about today, but there's so much more access to information than ever before. And like kind of how I started this about, hey, what do you think caused that? Because that question still kind of bouncing around in my head a little bit, and it's like at the time, it was like, cool, you got these smartphones. Like I'm old enough to remember, like, okay, this is where some of our younger members call me a boomer, right? I'm old enough to remember when I was like young in the early 90s, and we would like imagination with like your friends or whatever. And we used to like pretend when you would watch Batman or whatever, you're like, yeah, there's this like little pocket computer and we're going to do stuff with it. And like, wouldn't that be cool if we could have one of those one day and all the things we could do and the information we could have? Well, we have them and people are not getting any smarter. They're not getting any better and they're not getting more engaged. It's a real shame. And how can we change that? You have access to information at your fingertips that unlike no species of people that we're aware of has ever had before. I can go and pull up a city council meeting in, Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now. Within like 5 minutes, I could have their latest city council meeting from last Tuesday. and pull it up, watch through, and then text some of my friends in Wisconsin and be like, what's going on in city council in Milwaukee? What are you guys doing? You know, we're hosting a wire meeting there next year, or whatever it is. Our big convention is going to be in Milwaukee next time. What's going on with city council? I can do it with Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from. I can pull up their city council. They just got a new mayor, right? I can go look at that. I can do it here with Boise. I can do it with Coeur d'Alene. But nobody does it. Nobody uses the technology at their fingertips to be more engaged. I don't know why. I can't understand that problem.
Yeah, bro. Look, I was a Trekkie growing up because like my dad was, into sci-fi. So I grew up being into sci-fi.
You get it.
They 3D printed Worf a new spine.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
He got, I can't remember exactly what happened. He was in like a containment area or something. And there was like the ship got shook and then these barrels fell on him. And they were like because he was a Klingon. There it is. He was a Klingon. Yeah. Not a Romulan. Those are the Russians. But the Klingon. He's a Klingon. He's a big old jack guy. So this 2-ton barrel falls on him and it breaks his spine. And they have to 3D print him a new one because he's going to be paralyzed, all this stuff. And then they have these dumb little beep, like cark here, cark out. Like, and again, they're totally unimaginative with how people would actually function. Because if that episode was really real, it would be like, he breaks his back, he starts a GoFundMe, and then like everybody donates $5 and then goes back to watching like cat videos or porn. Right. It's like, and then the ship crashes into a planet because nobody's paying attention. Right? Like I
thought we were on autopilot.
Yeah, right.
I thought we were on autopilot. Like,
and then you're like, then you're blaming AI because the pilot was bad or something. Like, I don't know. It's like a Waymo autopilot. They're like, damn it, the Chinese hacked it, right? Or something, right? That's what it is. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Like I had walkie-talkies when I was a kid, right? And it's like walkie-talkies were super cool and it was like awesome.
Coolest. It was
yeah.
the coolest.
And you thought it would add function. Like you'd be able to be, I remember being I had these walkie-talkies that were the like camo spray paint. And we were like running around like army men. Like you thought it would increase you as a man of competence. Like you could coordinate better with your teammate and you could like talk and, go get the enemy. But instead it's just sucked, like the younger generation of men, it has completely sucked away their focus. We have more young men now living at home than we ever have before. More young men not ever having asked women out on dates, more transactional things. It's terrible for women, right? Obviously it's horrific for women and young men alike. I mean, we need these two groups of people to reconcile differences as effectively as possible on an ongoing basis. Like every generation has had to figure out a value proposition for engaging in marriage, and value propositions for both groups don't have to be identical, right? But they have to be relevant and they have to drive people beyond the anxiety that they would have otherwise had engaging in the world and drive them to be better people. That's the whole nature of humanity for as long as humanity has been around. And now it's like, yeah, but I can just like take a picture of that chick and then put her through something. And now I know what she's like naked, like no effort at all. And, like that's terrible for everyone.
There's like an erosion of these morals and virtues, right? And there's so many reasons for that. And you can go into that to the nth degree, right?
Yeah, right.
But either way, it goes back to that conversation that we were having about those digital spaces where it's like, you're not engaging people face to face. And so there's like a separate set of rules of like what your virtues and morals are online and what they are in person, because I know people, face to face would never do some of the things that they do online. And I've actually met certain people in person, whether it be in Idaho or outside of Idaho, and maybe you interact with them online only. And then you meet them for the first time and you're like, oh, you're actually really cool. Or I appreciate your personality. You've got a good sense of humor. Online, I just think you're kind of an ass. But in person, you're not bad. Right? I could sit down and have a beer with you. Or I could sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. But I see some of like the way these people engage in a digital space. But it's like, who's teaching these things? Who's teaching these morals and virtues? And I'm not sitting here claiming like I'm the czar of right or anything like that. I certainly have a lot of faults and foibles and I could be better, right?
Dude, that was a $10 word, foibles. Oh my God.
Foibles.
That's an SAT word,
you have
right
to
there.
Google it.
No, I'm with you. I'm just,
okay.
I think you just did it first, baby. I don't think anybody said that before.
Okay. All right. Today's episode is brought to you by foibles. It's everybody's problem.
It's everybody's problem. Yeah. Look, I'm sorry. You're not perfect. And by the way, you don't have to tell me. I'm already aware. But
right? But how do we get better at this stuff, you know? And that's, you know, that's one thing that we try to have with like these next generation, right? You know, we constantly talk about the next generation and like leading the next generation. So one fun fact is that your Idaho, at least for the Young Republican, the Idaho Young Republican group is generally viewed as one of the older, younger Republican leadership crews in the country. Most of our leaders are 30 or older. Now, they're maybe like early 30s or mid 30s, like me. But there's a lot of groups across the country that are like mid 20s. So 23, 24, 25, maybe 26. A lot of us are 31, 32, 33, 34. And then, you know, we've got a few older members that are, you know, close to aging out.
What's the age out? Like 40?
40. Oh, so it's 18 to 40. So, I mean, you see the range, right? You've got I'm not going to call them kids, but you've got,
they were at senior ball 12 months ago.
I know.
You can call them kids.
I can't call them kids, man. They're 18. They can vote. They can vote. That's the thing. They can vote.
They're still thinking kids. If coach put them in the fourth quarter, they would have taken state.
Probably.
They'd be sitting in a hot tub with their soulmate.
Right.
Uncle Rico style.
But you've got everybody who was born in 2003 and everybody who was born in 1983.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 85 now, but you know what I mean? So it's 18 to 40. That's the realm of our group. And so trying to deal with that disparity, you know, you've got, you know, the conversation with 18 to 21 year olds is vastly different than the conversations you have with 35 to 40 year olds. And so that's kind of my challenge is like, how do you connect these vastly different groups? I talked to some of our members who are 37, 38. They're married. They've been married for maybe 10 plus years and they got kids that are old enough to go to their own proms and soccer games and dances and all that stuff. And then you talk to, you know, our members who are 19, 20, and 21, and they're just excited to go have a beer at a bar soon or something. Or, you know, maybe they're still trying to figure out the world and they don't know where they fit into it, you know, but they see what's online. They see, you know, what other people are doing and they're like, okay, well, maybe that's what I have to do. You know, maybe it's not, maybe we got to do something different. And so like, how do you balance that? And I don't think I have a good answer, but you know, we've been trying to focus on the future, focus on emerging issues, you know, what's important, right? And it's not just the, whatever example we were talking about earlier, where like the world's on fire type thing. It's also like, hey, how can we make this water treatment issue kind of enticing?
Right.
At least a little bit.
Right. Or just look, the world is what it is. You and we don't have a vote on the phosphate, right? And the director of environmental quality, I believe, is a direct appointment. Okay. So we could like poo-poo on the governor if we do or we don't like him, like whatever. It doesn't matter to me. Like, fine. But just understanding, you know what I think the best thing is? Take the ammo away from people that engage in misinformation warfare. And they're very good at it. Like there are a lot of people who, you know, again, like we have the city council, you're on city council. Tyler has allowed our community to grow so big. Our roads are falling apart in disrepair. Our wastewater treatment plant is overloaded. It's going to cost $100 million, right? Our electricity is out off the roof because of all the consumption. Tyler is the problem. Well, mind you, the roads are ACHD. You can't do anything about that. And nobody planned for a byway 20 years ago. And so now downtown is getting hammered by a ton of traffic. Okay, that's one, not your deal. Power, because people have come into your community, has nothing to do with the power generation at Idaho Power and the rate case. Okay, nothing. We have a public utility commission for that. You can go talk to them if you want. And wastewater treatment has nothing to do with it. It's a state agency. Just inserting the structure and framework of reality and how the actual community functions takes the wind out of people's sails that would galvanize individuals and utilize these topics to do so. And then you have to argue about the real things, right? It was like, okay, you can't get around this. Like you can't use these things. And I think if you insert complexity and you help people realize like this is not black and white, instantly, if you can just insert a shred of doubt into somebody's confidence, they're like, I knew 30 seconds ago that Tyler on the city council, he was the problem with the wastewater treatment. Now I don't know. Damn it. Like I'm pretty sure, but now I actually don't know. If people are acting in good faith, then they're like, okay, maybe I should find out more, right? That, in my mind, that's one of the most important pieces, because if we allow people to continue becoming essentially radicalized over nonsense, It's not Tyler's fault that the power rate is what the power rate. It's not Tyler's fault. It's like ACHD he can't force ACHD. Like it's not. And what are the things within his control and how has he done with those things? Then you have to have a real assessment. And then you start getting people of competence rising to the top as long as we're arguing about the same things.
Well, that's why these conversations, like this effort, like even what you're doing is so important because it's not based on like if it bleeds, it leads, sex sells, those types of things. Right. Like these are like you can dive into the details. And I hope that more people try to do those types of things. Like when they see something, whether it be the misinformation, sure. whether it be the, little things that trigger people, like ask why. Seek details. And here's the thing. You have unprecedented access to information. It is right there. It's right there, man. And whatever is not there, you can do a public record request or you can do a FOIA request and you can go and you can hold your government agencies accountable, your elected officials accountable, and they'll provide you that information. Like seriously, there is no excuse not to do it. Although I will make a kind of a joke at this.
Hit me.
I kind of love these like fake accounts that go around on Facebook and like totally scam the boomers. Like I can see it. Like I look at it and I was like, oh, that is totally AI. Like that bear is not pushing a baby stroller.
Oh my
and then you look at like everybody else, I run to the comments because I want to be entertained. And I look down there and there's just everybody like, how could that mother not save her child? How could why didn't they just shoot the bear? And I was like, it's not real. This is AI, folks. It's like,
You've seen the one with the
so
bear in the front yard with a raccoon on the bear's back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the one where the bear comes over the fence and then the dog comes busting out of you know what's interesting? They got really smart. Instead of making videos that looked too perfect, they went the other direction to the ring cam videos. And so there's this voyeur aspect because it's the production quality is so low, you start believing that it's real. It's like, what if they just realized that made it? There was this account on TikTok a few years back that I'm good at systematizing things and I'm good at breaking down to understand pieces of things. And so when I was earlier in my social media education of understanding like, okay, what is this and how does this work? One of the accounts that I found very interesting was this guy who, you ever read I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell?
Oh, I have heard of that.
Tucker Max, super inflammatory.
It's
right.
That's right.
It's like frat boy, terrible person to the 100th degree.
I think I read it in college. I'm thinking more than a decade back.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that was a character that somebody came up with, and that the book was fictitious, but they came up with this like, what if we could take all the ridiculous urban legends and put them all into one person? And then they wrote this book that they peddled as like real, but in reality it was just fictitious, right? Anyway, so there was this person on TikTok that was doing a similar style platform, and all of his videos were ring cam videos. But you find out, like there was this one I remember watching, he busts out of like it's ring cam shot, screen door flies open. He's like, I'm leaving. And it's like, and his mom falls down. She's like, Travis, why are you going? He's like, you don't love me. She's like, that's not true. I just told you I didn't want to go downtown and get hammered at noon on margaritas on a Tuesday. He's like, it's the same thing. Right. So you start laughing. You're like, oh my God, but you find out if you watch enough and you break down what happens in them, you're like, oh, these are lines. Mm-hmm. Like these are lines that these people are delivering. Like, oh, I get it. So it was this structured thing. Now you have I had a friend send me this video the other day. He's like, what do you think about this? And it was this whole diatribe on how we should remove women's ability to vote. It was like women did this or women did that. And I was like, okay, first off, men have done terrible things too. We're going to remove their capacity to vote. I was like, second, how do you know, one, this is a real person? And two, that somebody didn't just go to ChatGPT and say, make the most compelling case with current contemporary news issues to argue that women should not have a vote. Because it'll come up with a dialogue, then you just pump it into AI character, you make a clip, and boom, all of a sudden, it's the most hyper-inflammatory thing possible.
Oh, yeah.
So those types of things are on the social webs, and boomers, to your point, have no idea. No. It's like, this is all nonsense. Like my mom sent me, I love you, Mom. My mom sent me a video of Jesus flying over Jerusalem, and she's like, I believe. I was like, no, Mom. And it was like a phone news story. Oh, no. I was like, Mom, Look at the text. The text is grainy. There's no actual news station. Who's this guy talking to you? Look at this picture of Jesus flying over Jerusalem, Mom. Like, if this were actually happening, don't you think it would be on Fox or something? Like, what, CNN?
Right, that's way better.
Like, Jimmy, anyone's like, I was
you
like,
know what's crazy, though? Even if Christ does come back and fly over Jerusalem, they're probably going to call it AI.
You know, that's actually probably true.
Isn't that kind of scary?
But at least it would have been in better than iPhone 1 footage.
It's like iPhone 5, and they're like, oh, that must be real. It's got like 2 cameras.
Listen to me. Listen, if Christ comes back, I'm not going to find out about it from a 3-week-old YouTube video. Right?
Right.
Like, I think we would probably get a call or something, not relying on like an anonymous YouTube account.
I don't know, man. You know, like, yeah, I agree with you. I generally agree with that. But, you know, it's to the point where it's like, it begs a question, like, what is real? What is, you know, how can you persuade people? And like, there is fake news. There is like these kind of what'd you call it? Like misinformation campaigns.
Yeah.
And I worry that sometimes like you're just going to erode people's, like they become so desensitized to some of this that like, you know, yeah, okay, there's fake videos. That's fine. But like now, you know, people aren't going to realize like the power of information that they have at their fingertips because there's so much fakery and nonsense out there. Okay. Right. And it's already happening. But how much worse can it get with AI?
Okay. But here's the thing. I think this is literally going to be like, let them eat cake. Okay. Sure. I think what's going to happen, like the French aristocracy, they all had diabetes. Like they were getting limbs cut off. They did perfume because they were like rotting because all they would do is eat cake. Right.
Right.
I think we're going to go through a similar transition in information consumption where people are like, this tastes so good. It's got to be bad. This has got to be there. It's just loaded with fat, sugar, and salt. And you see like, okay, hang on, let's pare it back. Like it's not terrible to ever eat it. Like you can laugh at terrible things on the interwebs or whatever, but like that shouldn't be all your consumption. Where are the meat and potatoes? Like let's get single ingredients, you know,
toss
like,
in a salad.
Just every now and then.
Sure.
Every now and then. God bless it. It's good for you. It's like, I love the cherry tomatoes. Like
who doesn't?
I love a blue cheese. Like let's.
Now that's the hot take. Blue cheese or no blue cheese?
On salad?
I love blue cheese.
I love blue cheese. Who doesn't like blue cheese crumble?
Have you ever met somebody who doesn't like blue cheese?
I mean, I've met terrible people.
They'll let you know.
Just like CrossFitters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if they do CrossFit.
They'll let you know. They sure will.
Oh, 100%, baby. They've never been so proud.
No, they haven't.
You know what? Have you ever done CrossFit?
I've done like a couple workouts over the years, you know, like one of those like, you know, celeb sessions. I'm not a celebrity, but they come in like, you can use my guest pass. I was like, all right.
Okay.
Sure.
Dude, I've done jiu-jitsu for a long time. Okay. And going into COVID, I was doing like pro fights, like these super fights, Saturday night, 10 o'clock. 40,000 people watching, these wild things that by any metric, it's like, wow, if you're going to tell somebody about something you did athletically, that's probably the thing. I never, talked to my students about it. And one of the last fights, my students came to it, which was kind of cool. But like I never talked to people about it over COVID. All of a sudden I can't do jiu-jitsu anymore, at least in that area. That was the number one thing. You weren't allowed to like crawl all over each other. It was like, that's close contact, baby.
Right.
I started doing CrossFit because they were doing it in the parking lot. And sure as hell, it was like, guess what I did yesterday, guys?
You got to tell all your friends.
I told all my students. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, what? I have done valuable athletic things. And here I'm just like working out in a parking lot. And I feel compelled to tell people.
It's different. I don't know. I don't know what different. It is. It's just like, maybe it's like the functional moves of it. I don't know what it is.
I am optimistic. But back to your point about the boomers. I feel like boomers got introduced to sugar and they don't know that it's like, you ever gone to a birthday? You have little kids, right?
I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Nope. Well, if you ever are blessed with little kids, I don't know if you want them or not, but okay, just go to a friend's you ever gone to a little kid's birthday party?
I sure have.
Okay, there you go. Yep. You got a friend,
the pound cake and everything, like
the whole thing. Yep. And it's like the whole thing. You see the grandparents there. Like you generally see parents there, and if there's like a mom there who's just stuck on her phone, you're like, what's wrong with that lady? Like, what's going on? Whatever. Just going through a divorce or something. She's got to post a hot picture of herself at the little kid's birthday party. Whatever. It's weird. You're like, hey man, like come back to reality. You see grandparents passed out on the couch like this. with their phone in their hands on their gut. They can't get off them. It's like you're at your grandchild's birthday party. You go to college graduations. You go to high school graduations. You go to all of the grandparents are like, dude, I was at a wedding recently. Somebody's here scrolling on YouTube, a grandparent scrolling on YouTube. I'm like, you're at the wedding. So I feel like
I just pause for a second.
Please.
Like, I love that this is the significant, like that's the boomer scroll.
It's not a thumb.
It's not a thumb.
It's two hands.
Yep. It's two hands. It's a two-handed action, right? Like as soon as you did that, I was like, okay, this person's over 60, right? Immediately. This is over 60. Like anybody else doing it these days is like, whatever. Okay, I'm going to scroll, whatever.
Yeah.
As soon as you go like this, right?
You know what it is? I think it's like rheumatoid arthritis because like with us, as the phones got bigger and bigger, we were able to manhandle them, and it's like, okay, you get your dexterity, like my wife, or you get the pop thing on the back, so you hold it with your index finger and your middle finger, and then you can scroll through. But with the older people, they're just like claw grip.
When it is like it's interesting because like even when I get a new phone, I'm like, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to hold this thing. And then like 3 days later, you're like, yeah, I'm going to be fine. Yeah. But did you ever pick up one of the old phones from like, the early 2000s? You pick that up and it feels like a
little baby,
like phone. A pencil in your hand. You're like, this is so tiny.
Oh my God, it's so cute.
Like I once thought this was big.
I know.
You look at it and you're like, did my thumbs get bigger? Probably, it's possible. Too much cake, but then, you see the phones now. I mean, they're like small iPads almost, right?
Yeah. Very much. I remember when the iPhone like 3 or 4, it was the first time when they really jumped up the size. And I remember going to, I was training at a Caesar Grace's place in Pleasant Hill. And there was this gal there who's a personal fitness trainer. She had the first one I seen. I was like, how's the iPad? And it was hilarious to see her put it up to her ear.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like we all used to hold our phones up to her. Now you can't get me to put a phone to my ear to save my life. Like I'll be in the middle of, church on speakerphone. I'm like, what?
Oh, you're the speakerphone guy?
I can't, not actually in other people's presence. Okay. That's kind of, because I won't take a call in other people's presence. This is the other thing. I won't get on the phone if I'm around people at all, ever.
Sure.
Right. I'll excuse, like I've got to go to the bathroom. Like I'll excuse myself to go on the phone. That's another indication that you're dealing with a boomer. They will walk into the center of a social gathering and jump on the phone, and they'll try to make eye contact with you. They're like, oh, really? Oh, he's so fun. Isn't he funny? And you're like, oh my God, stop, Mom. I love you, Mom. I don't know why Mom keeps coming up today. Anyway, but I think back to this thing, I think the key is to help younger people. And I think they already understand it. Help. It's like, this is not good for you. You're eating too much sugar. Because now my kids, they can eat a little sugar, but they're like, oh no, I can't have, like on Halloween, they all got sick and we only let them have like 4 or 5 pieces of candy. And like, one of my kids was like, I'm dying. I'm like, yeah, you went after that, Almond Joy real hard, buddy. Like take it easy. They don't like it. And I would presume, I don't have a draw to my phone right now. You don't have your phone in your hand. We're not looking at our phones. We're not getting bored with each other. If we went out for drinks, I'm sure you wouldn't grab your phone and just start scrolling through. We are developing healthier information habits that I think the older generation missed. And they're too removed from self-reflection and like social. They don't have the need to assimilate into large, complex social gatherings when they're like 65, 70, the same way we do as younger people working through the world.
But, they've already done that, though. They've engaged without the technology.
Yeah.
And like maybe they're just like really into it. Like, hey, I love this. This is awesome. And I'm finished working. So, they're in the kind of retirement of their life. But on the other end of the spectrum, there are folks that like younger. I'm trying not to offend people. I don't want to call them young, but like
you're an ageist,
right? But there are, young professionals that don't know how to engage with people. They only know how to engage with technology. This is a really funny story and it's a true story. And I tell people this to like help explain the challenge that we have, with kind of the workforces is, so at a prior job, once upon a time, I was in charge of like doing some interns. And so we brought in the interns from like Boise State or whatever, and maybe a couple other universities. I was like, okay, you guys are going to be on like phone answering duty. You're going to answer the phones. Everybody okay with that? They're like, yeah, sure. It's like, okay, phone rings. And they're like, what do I do? I was like, pick it up. And they're like, how do I make it stop ringing? I was like, pick it up.
Make it stop ringing.
I was like, pick it up. And then they're like, okay, well then what do I say? I was like, say hello. Thanks for calling. Ask them what you like. I mean, just like totally
identify yourself, the organization,
totally
social niceties.
To the point where like I had to reach over the desk, pick up the phone and just take the call and show them. right? And it just got me thinking. I was like, wow, there's such a disconnect here. Because, you know, when I was younger, we were trained on phone etiquette. Like, what do you say when your parents aren't home? Oh, well, they're in the shower, you know, until, you know, there's a funny story around that. But anyway.
You always say they're not available.
Yeah. Yeah. They're in the shower. They're just like, you know. Anyway, but like
I remember that distinctly, that my mom being like, never say I'm not home. Always just say I'm not available right now.
Right.
Yeah.
She's out in the garden, kind of take a message.
Yeah. Right.
Whatever it may be. You know, but we were trained on phone
December.
etiquette.
She's not in the garden.
Right. You know, for
like, damn it didn't work.
Right. It's just one of those where we were trained to do that. And like nowadays the generations are much more like on their phone inversions of like texting and like your digital mediums that way. It's not so, or like Marco Polo. I've heard of that, which like I've used a little bit, but like, anyway, like I kind of forget like my point and just going about this, but it's just so amazing to me. Just that
you're saying younger generations are struggle with social norms with communication. Yeah.
It's just, but that disconnect is always just so amazing to me, right? It's just like, how do we bridge that gap? How do we bridge that gap? And whether it be from the boomers down or whether it be from the Gen A, Alpha, Gen Z, I think it's Gen Z. Gen Alpha is like the ones who are like still in middle school, but like, how do you bridge that gap into getting people into some version of like a new, you know, just like a new homeostasis, right? How do you bridge that gap? So that way, you know, your boomers and your Gen Zs are not like on polar opposites, right? I mean, I guess they say that about politics too. How do you bridge that gap so that not everybody is just like shouting from opposite sides of the cliff at each other?
And again, I don't know, but I would imagine it's like if I look at a bunch of 18-year-olds that can't answer the phone, I'm like, listen, man, you might think that 70-year-old over there, he's an idiot, but you could call his phone right now and carry on a normal conversation.
Right.
Right. And the 70-year-old, you're like, look, you may think that those guys are dumb and they're 18 and like, sure, they have a lot of life to learn, but they also could navigate the complexities of the interwebs without getting like enraged and hoodwinked. Like nobody's convincing them to send $50 to something like you.
Right.
And you do not have the capacity to engage in more discriminatory thought than like the 18-year-old. Because the 18-year-old knows if somebody calls and says, I've kidnapped your mom, like you have to send $5,000, they're going to be like, hold my beer. Like, I'm going to go get a hold of my beer. Yeah. Like, oh, you kidnapped my mom. She just posted on Instagram 5 minutes ago. Okay. You're allowing her to post? Okay. That's great. Whatever. Like tell her
to DM me.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell her to DM, slide into my DMs, mom. Proof of life. Yeah. Like you have value propositions for both parties. And if you bring, you know, I think at least articulating like, look, we all have our place here. Right. And you at 70, you're definitely more polished and better at certain things. But there's also a nuance and understanding of the world that people live in that the 18 to 20-year-olds know. That here's one for you. This was really interesting. Towards the end of my education, I had this gal in one of my classes who I really liked. She was like quiet though. And I could never tell. I'm like, what is going on with this girl? Like and again, you get a bunch of 16-year-olds in a room with me. Nobody can stay quiet. Like we start, you know, having a good time. I fill them up with caffeine. Like we're giddy up, baby. We're going.
Here's Mountain Dew. Here's Dr. Pepper and a Babe Ruth.
Oh, dude. Oh, so great. And this one gal had like managed to kind of like stay quiet for, you know, 8 out of the 9 weeks. Last class she's in there. One of the last reviews we're doing. And she finally starts talking. I'm like, dude, where have you been? What have you been doing for the last 2 months? Like I've been like throwing out every joke I could think to like get you. She was like, listen, you never talk in front of people. I was like, what do you mean? And her whole thing was like, you have to understand, Matt, how the risk proposition for me as a teenager to like engage in jokes and stuff with people I don't know. Even if it's in person, it's really, really risky. And many of my students had stories about like engaging in conversations with their close friends when someone else in earshot heard and they got in trouble. They weren't even talking to those people, but somebody reported that this person said this thing and it made them feel a certain way. And the coach had to take action at like soccer practice. And so this girl, I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't understand the world you live in, do I? She was like, no, you don't. I'm like, well, thank you for coming out and telling me.
So like
opening up
punchlines.
What's that?
Like indirect punchlines? Is that like, that's a wild thought to me. I mean, look, I understand there's certain things that could get you in trouble if you're, but even just like person A and B having conversation and person C, like over there just hears about it and they just get in trouble for it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, like or even things done in good faith that the person listening does not understand. Okay, one gal I was tutoring, she Caucasian gal, dates a lot of black guys. Like, none of my affair, no big deal. Like, doesn't matter to me. Great, whatever. And she got in trouble with a sports coach because she was talking to one of her friends, I think, about a guy she was dating. And I'm sure that, the articulation of his skin tone came up. Somebody not even understanding what she was talking about said the conversation that this person overheard and was not included in made that removed person uncomfortable, told the coach this girl got in trouble. She was like, what in the holy, like, what is going on?
See, and that's problematic too, right? Like,
oh, it's terrible.
There's an environment where it's like a snitching environment. It waters down when something bad is actually happening, right? Like if something terrible were going on where it's like, hey, we should not be engaging that way amongst each other. Well, now it's like you report everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not right either. Like what? It's that whole culture thing. And
yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of weird things. Listen, man, I can't believe it's taken so long for us to get together and have a coffee and have a conversation. This is fantastic. Yeah, we need to do this on the reg. And, I want to understand all sides of it. I want to understand all sides of the political spectrum. But what I want to understand the most is how people are successfully building the next generation of individuals that are politically motivated to see each other as human beings. We can disagree. Like, you know what somebody told me? This was hilarious. Somebody texted me. They sent this in my DMs, right? They send like a thumbs up to some clip. I was like, yeah. I was like, hey, thanks for watching. And this person writes back. She's like, hey, Barbara's her name. Barbara's like, I don't always like the guests you have, but I so appreciate that you're working hard to present all sides. And I wrote her back. I was like, bless you, Barbara. You know what? I don't even always like the guests I have, but like, you never know, right? Because I'm nice to everyone. It's like, yeah, we don't have to agree and we don't have to like each other, but we can sit down and have a cup of coffee and I can understand your position better. And if that brings me more towards your position, great. If it reaffirms my rejection of your position, great. But what's the harm in saying like, help me understand that, or help me understand your position as best as you can? We don't have to agree, man. And that's what I think is going to be a huge piece of getting us through this nasty.
I think so. Just having those conversations, whether you agree or disagree, and that's one thing that we focus on is like when we try to engage the next generation, one thing, if I can end on something.
Yeah, please.
It's, not everybody might like this, but I made some cracks at some of the boomer jokes. And so actually I said this at our convention when I got elected. I was like, I'm not interested in engaging in boomer fights. I see it everywhere. They fight over every possible topic. And what's really damaging is that they're missing the key issues. They're missing the ability to engage to better Idaho, to better the country, whatever it may be. We're just Idaho. We're a state organization, but like, we're not going to have these boomer fights. I want to show people that there's another way to do this where you can positively engage, you can have fun, right? And we can actually talk about the issues and disagree. And it's okay. I don't have to hate you if we disagree. And actually modeling that and showing that to other people, I think has been wildly successful for us. I mean, we're up in every single category. We're up on unique donors. We're up on fundraising. We're up 35% on membership. Like whatever we're doing is working. I can tell you one thing, we're not fighting unnecessarily with each other. So that's working. So I'd love to come on and talk more about that in the future.
I would love that. I would love that.
If you want to get more into the weeds with some of it, about some of that like engagement and building different models and just being a good partner to all the other folks who, like I said, I may disagree with some of the things that people do, but I still want to be a good partner with them.
Listen, I'm so for that. And I could not agree with you more. Seeing, and again, the boomers, however we want to categorize them, just go down these rabbit holes where like, you're not helping. This is not helping. You hating on people, just again, whatever it might be, whatever the thing might be, we need leadership on all sides to be coming forward and saying, hey man, what's best for the community? Not, and which people always do, they're like, we need our side to win because our side has the best ideas for the community. So whatever we have to do to get our side to win, that's what's going to be best. It's like, nope, That's a hacky partisan like joke. What is actually good? Because if you're saying, hey man, let's vilify everyone who thinks this side is good, because then our policies will get put into place and that's what's best. It's like, okay, even if you believe in your policy, convincing everyone in the community that anything that disagrees with you, those people must be bigoted pedophiles or something. That's not beneficial to the community, because now we're all worried about like the bigoted pedophiles running around. And it's like, yeah, man, we got to get away from that.
The number one most popular policy among older voters is still Social Security. That was once a socialist idea by FDR, who put in Social Security, right?
Right.
Maybe it was a little bit before that. I thought it was FDR.
I think it was FDR.
I think it was FDR. And so, I mean, you talk to like, older retired voters about, hey, we're going to take your Social Security away. I mean, they lose their mind. But the point is that like we can have that debate, whether that is useful or not useful. Either way, like that came about because we worked and listened to other sides. And maybe it's become, just a part of our community at this point. But like to your point, like, yes, I'm a conservative and I believe in conservative principles. That also doesn't mean that I don't think my friends on the other side of the aisle have valuable things to contribute. I think that they do have valuable things.
Sure.
And I hope that they give me the same treatment. That, you know what, we might not always agree, but maybe there's some aspects where you're like, you know what, it's probably not a great idea to blow our budget out and spend a bunch of money we don't have, right? Like the idea of a balanced budget in Idaho, that's a great thing. We don't really have deficit spending. That's a conservative idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Listen, man, I want you to come back. I want to go into the weeds. Let's get after it. I'm really happy we got to connect. We just need more of this. We need more conversations. We need more understanding. And I appreciate that you're pushing for that. So God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Here's to you. We'll do it again.
Cheers.